that industrial design needs to develop a better vocabulary for communicating with researchers. It's very unusual for a design program to have a course in, for example, statistics.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into Notes of Design. To help support our mission spread knowledge, we have a very special guest on today's episode. It's with a great honor, let's welcome Charles L. Mauro, who is a president and founder of Mauro Usability Science, a New York-based consulting firm founded in 1975. Mr. Mauro is a certified human factor engineering professional, and he has personally managed over 4,000 research and development projects over his 40 years career as a leading expert in human factor engineering, product design, and design research. He had received numerous awards and citations for design and design research, including the Industrial Designers Society of America has given its highest recognition, the Personal Achievement Award. Historically, the award has been given to leading design luminaries, including Sir Jonathan Ive of Apple, Raymond Loewy, Henry Dreyfuss, and others. Mr. Mauro is also a frequent speaker at international conferences, leading academic institutes and government agencies, including MIT, Stanford, UPenn, the FDA, NASA, and other legal conferences on global basis. In this episode, Mr. Mauro had shared great insights on industrial design and design ergonomics. So we started with what exactly is industrial design and what was Mr. Mauro's experience in working with famous design luminaries like Raymond Loewy and other famous designers. We also spoke on how does ergonomics and human factor sciences play a significant role in industrial design, and how could designers take the aid of data to design sustainable products. Mr. Mauro also shared some of his wonderful experiences for designing solutions for NYSC and NASA space shuttles, and Mr. Mauro has served as an expert in over 75 major IP cases, so we had discussed on design IPs and how design IPs protect the designer's creativity. We then concluded the show by Mr. Mauro's views on the future of design and the impact designers could have on the metaverse. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and on every Friday we release new episodes with different creative leaders from around the world to help you better understand different concepts related to design. So don't forget to tune in into Notes of Design every Friday. With that being said, happy designing everyone. Hi Charles, welcome to Notes of Design. It's a pleasure hosting you today on our show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So Charles, how was your day so far?
Oh, it's been fine. It's a little early here in New York, but happy to accommodate the team in India, so no problem.
So what was your journey into design and how did you start? And what are your tips to the beginners on how to start?
Well, my trip into design started basically, from the standpoint of childhood. I always had a strong interest in technology and designing, building things. I was a model airplane enthusiast, model rockets. So there was always this desire to understand a given problem and create a solution for that problem. So I worked, on a number of various projects when I was young. Then I went to the University of Colorado for a year, a little more than a year, studied math and sculpture there. And while I was taking a course at the University of Colorado, one of my instructors came in one day with a shopping bag full of catalogs to design schools. And she said to me, because I knew her very well, she said, well, you have kind of an unusual background in the way you approach problems. Have you ever thought about industrial design? And I said to her, well, what is industrial design? This was, my freshman year in college. And she said, well, here are some catalogs of various design schools. Why don't you look at them and see what you think? So I took the catalogs home and I looked down, and as soon as I opened the first catalog and read through a few pages, I said, oh, this is exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is perfect for, what my interests are and my capabilities. So from that point on, I stayed at University of Colorado a bit longer. I applied to Art Center College of Design in Los Angeles, a very well-known design school at that time. It's still very well-known. And I was accepted at Art Center and got in my car and drove to Los Angeles and finished my degree there, and then went on to work for a couple of very famous designers in New York. So that's sort of my journey. My recommendation for those interested in design is to look carefully and extensively at the possible educational opportunities for you. Today there's many online design education courses available. And of course, India and many other countries have formal design education spread throughout the entire university system. So my recommendation is to seek the best education that you can and work through, your early years very hardworking and be very aggressive about it. Design is a very competitive field, and even if you have a degree from a good university or a good design program, you still will have a lot of competition in the workplace for obtaining a good position. So education is that, and also for those starting out, don't be afraid to ask experts or others in the field who you might know, could be friends, colleagues, recommendations, mentors. Ask them for recommendations, because you will find that designers in general are very open to helping others. So feel free to always, get on LinkedIn or other social media formats and send requests to any of the experts that you see there. You'd be amazed who will respond.
Thank you so much, Charles, for sharing these wonderful tips with us. So let's begin our episode today with industrial design. So what exactly is industrial design, and what was your experience working with Raymond Loewy and other famous designers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, industrial design as a formal discipline came about essentially in the late 1920s. The genesis of industrial design in the way in which is primarily practiced today took place essentially in the United States. It's widely regarded that the founding father of industrial design was a famous designer by the name of Raymond Loewy. The first product that had applied industrial design expertise was the Gestetner duplication machine. And this is a well-documented part of the history of industrial design, but industrial design as a profession is a discipline where an individual with training and expertise in product aesthetics, how products look physically, into manufacturing methods, and to some extent into usability, approach the design of a product from sort of start to finish, if they're lucky. And they apply these three disciplines, manufacturing expertise, product aesthetics, and ergonomics or human factors engineering, to the creation of products that are optimized for consumer consumption. And if you look at sort of the trajectory of industrial design and what brought about its tremendous expansion, you really have to look at the end of the Second World War, when the American and Allied armies defeated Germany. We were left with a tremendous amount of manufacturing capability in the United States and in Europe, mostly in the United States. And as a result, industrial design found a very fertile ground, because industrial design is the way in which you can differentiate products of the same category simply by design. So, for example, the automobile industry is a great example of this. You had Ford and Cadillac and General Motors and Chrysler. And these are, automobiles, especially at that time and even today, are basically the same technology, the same engineering, if you will. So industrial design became the way in which manufacturers could differentiate their products by the visual appearance and, to a lesser extent, the function of the product. And that is a skill set that designers brought to capitalism, if you will. I mean, if you look at the dramatic increase in capitalism post-World War II, especially in the United States, you see that the field of industrial design, by and large, drove a great deal of that growth by creating differentiated products in the same category. So, basically that's what industrial design is. That's a brief history of how industrial design evolved as quickly as it did. My personal experience early in my career, I was extremely fortunate to have been hired right out of design school by the design firm of Henry Dreyfuss Associates in New York. They moved me to New York. Dreyfuss at that time was, in addition to Raymond Loewy's firm, one of the two largest design firms in the world. Very, very successful firms. And there I worked on a number of very interesting projects, tractors for John Deere, Polaroid cameras. Polaroid was sort of the Apple computer of that period. And many other very interesting projects. And I developed a very strong appreciation for industrial design at a very high level. After, I guess it was about 3 years at the Dreyfuss firm, I was accepted at graduate school at NYU Medical School, and I then went back to graduate school and obtained a graduate degree in human factors engineering and ergonomics, where I studied in the medical school for 3 years there. Toward the time of my degree was coming forward in graduate school, I was contacted by the firm of Raymond Loewy International. And as I mentioned, Raymond Loewy was widely regarded as the founding father, one of the founding fathers of the field of industrial design. And they were looking for a designer who had a formal background in ergonomics. Of course, I was qualified for that. I went to work for the Raymond Loewy firm, and it was a tremendous opportunity. I was able to manage large projects. One of those projects, which I had primary responsibility for, was the design of a series of products that would be produced in the Soviet Union and exported to the West. This was during détente, the famous political period in the relationship between the Soviet Union and the United States. I caught the eye of Raymond Loewy himself, and I was very fortunate to be designated as personal design assistant on a couple of large projects. I traveled with him personally in Europe and the Soviet Union, and was extremely fortunate to have spent considerable time with the founding father himself in the field of industrial design early in my career. And then shortly after Raymond Loewy sold his firm, I started my own firm in 1975, and it's been continually in operation since then.
Thank you so much, Charles. And it was really inspiring to know. So if you could share us, what were the major learnings that you have received quite early in your career while working with Raymond Loewy?
Well, I think the primary learning is that industrial design is a profession, first and foremost, of commerce. It's not a profession of art, and that your primary responsibility as an industrial designer is always to your client. And if you listen carefully to your client, you can oftentimes solve problems that are beyond those which are explicitly stated. In the product brief, for example, Raymond Loewy was famous for his ability to understand broad, complex problems. I remember, many times where he could integrate information from many, many different sources into a very clearly articulated statement for his design teams. I've seen him, many times go into a design review with his designers where there might be 150, 200 drawing concepts, pinned up on a wall in front of him. And he could walk down that wall, one time, and he would pick out the three best solutions. And he knew why those were the three best solutions. And I think the greatest gift that I learned from him, the greatest gift he gave me, was to always look at the big picture and understand those key aspects of solving a design problem that are important for the client. In some cases, you want a product that's aesthetically much more pleasing. Some cases, you want a product that's much more functional. In other cases, you want a product that is easier to manufacture. And of course, industrial design as a profession always thinks about all of those